Thank you for tuning in because this show sucks. Man, that couldn't be put any better. Do you ever feel like somebody's watching you? Because you should. It's the government. The government has sure been ramping up its spying on law-abiding citizens under the cover of health and safety. Today we're going to cover the landscape of your privacy and national security. Canadian government wants to spy on law-abiding citizens for their safety. Now, when we're talking about government spying, we're not talking about the stuff from like 10 years ago when Edward Snowden was doing the whistleblowing for the NSA spying. What we're talking about is spying that's going on right now and has been going on since the start of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdowns. The federal government has admitted to tracking 33 million mobile devices to monitor the population's movement during lockdowns, according to BlackRock's reporter. The agency collected and used mobility data without you knowing. The agency would like you to believe the cell tower locators were used to understand the public's responsiveness during lockdowns, but we know this is all about just surveillance and tracking the population because they want power. And what's weird about this report coming out is, for the tracking there, is the conspiracy theorists were saying that the government's going to be shooting everybody up with these vaccines and GPS chips to track them. Well, that's a conspiracy, of course. But now we have an actual report showing that they were tracking you, but they just weren't doing it with shooting the chips into your body. By the way, we do have technology nowadays that can put RF chips into your body, so let's not discount that for the future, all right? So who knows what's going to happen for the future, but for now, they're actually doing it with your phones, and there was no way to opt out. Whether you got the vaccine or you didn't, it doesn't matter. There was no way to opt out. They didn't tell you where it was, so you couldn't avoid the areas, and this was pretty much warrantless tracking. Warrantless tracking and watching the population. They're doing this tracking under they're cloaking it under health and safety. You have to beg to ask the question, was there any oversight in this project? Did they decouple the personal identifiers of any of the data, the metadata? This type of tracking can be ripe for abuse, especially if there's another country that controls our telecommunications infrastructure, which brings me to our next point, around national security. Now, just before the holiday break for Parliament in the House of Commons, Conservative MP Ed Fast, he voiced some concerns of a report by the Washington Post that said Huawei is promoting facial and voice recognition software that helps them track shoppers and monitor political dissident. This is a real legitimate concern. The Chinese government has been spying on their citizens for many years to crush all political opponents and policy challengers. This isn't a secret. All of Canada's most trusted allies are banning Huawei from their network. So Ed asks, when will the Trudeau government say no way to Huawei? And then this was the answer he got from the Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable colleague for the question. He knows that one of the priority of this government is to keep our network safe, Mr. Speaker. We know that the network is one of the most critical infrastructure for now and for generations to come. And an experienced member like him would understand that when you're taking a decision like that, the lens which you look at that is national security, Mr. Speaker. We understand that on this side of the House. I wish colleagues would understand as well. Merci.
It's been going on 3 years now, and the Trudeau government still hasn't made a decision about Huawei, and even our own intelligence agencies have been warning the Prime Minister against letting Huawei into our 5G networks.
To our 5G networks. Turns out they were right. For years, Huawei denied that it was a tool of the communist regime in Beijing. Now we have evidence that the company is deeply implicated in designing surveillance tools to keep track of millions, if not billions of people around the world. Is that acceptable to this minister? And will he make a decision on Huawei before the year end? Yes?
to thank you for making sure I can continue to explain to my esteemed colleague the importance of the network in Canada. And Mr. Speaker, Canadians were watching. We're just before Christmas. They're watching this question period, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure. One thing that they understand is that we on this side of the aisle, we understand what national security is about, and we will make the right decision for this generation and future generation.
Now, the Minister of Innovation gave us a lot of non-answers here. Absolutely nothing. And just repeated himself like a broken record.
I'd like to thank the member for what is a very important question.
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his important question.
Every time he acknowledges that it's a very important question, but he just continues to fail to answer it. He never answered. They keep asking, are you going to give a no by the end of this year? Are you going to answer the question by the end of this year? And he just walks around it. So, no, we never got an answer. If Trudeau's government really understood how important national security is and took it serious, they would know it is in the best interest of all Canadians to say no way to Huawei. Because providing Huawei with a backdoor access to our telecommunications network can cripple Canada. The Chinese government would have full control of the flow of all of our data online. Full control. And if they really wanted, they could even implement the Great Firewall of China in Canada. And would the Chinese government allow another country to control their network? Hell no! China doesn't want any outside influence on their networks. Why should we allow them to invade our network? But why would he be so cool with exploring the idea of allowing Huawei with access to our infrastructure, our 5G infrastructure? Could it be for any special self-interest? Because back in 2020, it was reported that he had to mortgage out with the state-owned Bank of China. So is there any type of influence that the Chinese government is trying to pressure to make Canada accept it? So now, because we never got an answer for the end of the year, and it sounds like that they're not going to give a no to Huawei, you got to flood your MPs in your area with messages, phone calls, emails, letters, doesn't matter what it is, just tell them you want to say no to Huawei and tell them to ban Huawei from our networks. For our best interest and the best interest of Canadians and the future of Canada, we need to ban Huawei. And that's all we have for you today, so don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and push that notifications button to get more.